Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 Carroll County 4-H and FFA Fair, our 125th anniversary here at the Carroll County Fair. We'd like to welcome you to our sheep market show. We're going to start off with our market lamb pairs. Also, there will be more programs coming out shortly. They're in the process of printing them now. So as they come out, I'll let you know, and they usually put them at the end of the bleachers so that you can access them fairly easily. If you have any questions as you're coming up to the arena tonight about maybe what class you really belong in or whatever, Jason is in the red shirt and Brad is in the plaid shirt. They'll be our two gentlemen at the gate. Check in with them when you come up, and they'll make sure you're in the right place. All right? Okay, we're going to get started here. This will be our first class of market pair lambs. We have 4 entries: Elliot Weishauer, Levi Smith, Shane Smith, and Bridget Barber.
Well, good evening, and excited to be back with you guys tonight and work through your sheep show. And we're starting out on the pair side of things, and I left these two over here because I think they probably just do the most in terms of just muscularity and freshness. I think there's some subtle differences in how these things are built, how they're put together, and what they kind of possess from the side. I guess for me personally, the one that I like to start is going to be that group up front. I think those sheep are genuinely just rounder in terms of their body shape. I think those sheep are pulled apart with more density through their with more density through their skeleton, probably just read a little denser in terms of their bone work. Like I said, I think the group that comes out in second right here are two that are very trim, probably a little fresher just to the touch. Don't know if those sheep replicate the same rib cage, the same top line quality we find in the two that win, but an awfully nice pair of them to go ahead and go 1-2. And then lady right here will be 3, and I think those sheep have got a lot of grow, a lot of extension, and I can appreciate a lot of things. I think for me, comparatively speaking, probably not just as stout from behind. Don't know if they got enough true tone and shape when you get your hands down the top of them. Want to clean them up just in terms of their look and build. And then the pair that we're going to round out the class with, I like these sheep in terms of how their neck sets at the top of their shoulder blade. I think both of them balance good enough from the side. I think the biggest issue with me is I just don't know if there's enough of them right now. They probably read the most immature, the most juvenile in terms of their shape up high and from behind. I think a really nice way to start the sheep show off, if you guys will. Let's put our hands together for an excellent job.
Results of our first class of market lamb pairs. First place goes to Levi Smith. Second, Elliot Weishauer. Third, Shane Smith. Fourth, Bridget Barber. Down your program, it goes 2, 1, 3, and 4. And there are some additional programs on the ends of the bleachers. Down at this end, I see some. So if you'd like to have one, and there's some over straight across from me at the edge of the bleachers also. So if you're looking for a program, they are out here. Okay, we're going to start our second class of market pair lambs. We have one scratch in your program. Samuel Powell will not have a pair of market lambs. These lambs are going to range in weight of 246 combined to 255. We have 3 entries: Eli Barber, Elijah Hockheiser, and Jensen Wagner. The following exhibitors should be coming ringside: Addie Wagner, Elizabeth Coppersmith, and Peyton Zepp.
While we're getting these things kind of wrangled up, I'm going to go ahead and talk them. For me personally, I think that pair that comes out first is the one that probably just fits the mold for me personally. I think those sheep are genuinely just a little stouter, a little bit denser in terms of their skeleton. I think they maintain their top line balance and motion the best. Probably read with just the most hand feature and substance down low. Gentleman and the young lady on the end are going to be second, and I like that pair of sheep. I think they balance well. They're good in terms of their skeletons. I think at the same time, though, they probably just run out a punch from behind. Don't know if there's quite enough of that pair to go ahead and beat the two up front. And then the gentleman right here is going to be third. 2 sheep that I think, just in terms of length of skeleton and grow, I like a lot of things about them. think those sheep are flexible. To me, probably don't balance as well from this side. Don't know if those sheep are near stout enough from behind. Awfully good set of them. Awfully good set of them, though. Let's congratulate these kids on a job well done.
Results of our second class of market land pairs. First place, Jensen Wagner. Second, Eliza Hockheiser. Third, Eli Barber. Down your program, it'll go scratch, 3, 2, and 1. Next in the ring, our third class of market land pairs. We have 3 exhibitors, Addie Wagner, Elizabeth Coppersmith, Peyton Zepp, and Madison Myers is a scratch. These weights will range from 266 to 277.
We get a pair of them out here, and I think of the pairs, I think that group up front wins and does so pretty quick. I think just from a standpoint of just having show sheep proportions representing some look and quality from the side, I think that's where those sheep find a pretty easy spot to the top. Doesn't help that they're packed with the right kind of shape and density, still handle fresh, read with the right kind of edges off either end of their build. I think that's an awfully good pair to win. The young ladies we've got down here, I think we've got 2 sheep that are good in terms of their balance and their look from the side. Don't know if they necessarily match the bells and whistles of those weathers that just won. Definitely run out of substance from behind, but I think another pair that winds up in second that's definitely got quality. Congratulations to those 4 on a job well done.
Results of Class 3, market land pairs. First place, Peyton Zepp. Second, Addie Wagner. Down your program, it goes 2, scratch, scratch, 1. In the ring now is Class 4, market land pairs. Should be 5 entries. We should have Estella Gover, Alexia Cornett, Riley Dell, Ben Powell, Patrick Barber. Still looking for another set. Who we look? Okay, now we're good.
I think we've got two groups of them that are very interesting, and we think about how we align these pairs. I think the important thing for me is trying to find two of them that probably fit each other a little more symmetrically just in terms of their skeleton. And I think when we start thinking about those things and just how these two break out, I think this group up front probably makes the most sense today. I'm not saying that maybe not necessarily my favorite sheep is in that group, but I think just in terms of proportionality, what those sheep represent in terms of hard shape and muscle, I think is the most ideal. They match up the best just in terms of this pair. This group down here, I think just in terms of consistency, I don't necessarily know if those wethers match up as good as the one that I used, because I think the sheep on this end probably fits me a little better just in terms of his skeleton. Don't know if that sheep right there necessarily follows the same build, but I think a pair of them that are awfully good, probably not just as fresh and as crisp as those two that just won, but I think another really high-quality pair that winds up in second. Sheep that come out here are ones that are definitely square and muscular. I think you start studying how their backs lay in them. I think both of those sheep lay a good enough groove down the top side of their skeleton, still read plenty big enough from behind. I guess the thing for me is when we step off the side, I don't know if those guys necessarily balance up quite as well as those two on that side of the ring. Don't know if they necessarily match up just in terms of their parts and pieces. I still think both of those sheep have a lot of quality, just don't represent a lot of the same things from just a uniformity standpoint. Pair we've got right here are ones that I think are really high growth, really extended, and have definitely some body shape, some heaviness of structure, and some flexibility. I think this look right here, though, is where they get in a little bit of trouble. Don't know if those sheep are just near stout enough from behind. Don't know if they're just as neat to look at in terms of their build. And then the pair that rounds out this class are two that you got to love just from a standpoint of growth, performance, having some extension off either end of their skeleton. But for me personally, I just think those sheep come a little more conventional in terms of their build. Probably not just as neat to look at from the side. Awfully nice class, though. Congratulations to those kids on a job well done.
Results of Class 4 Market Land pairs. First place, Alexia Cornett. Second, Estella Gover. Third, Riley Dell. Fourth, Ben Powell. Fifth, Patrick Barber. Down your program, it will go 2, 1, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to pick our grand champion pair of market lambs. We'll need in the ring at this time from Class 1, Levi Smith. From Class 2, Jensen Wagner. From Class 3, Peyton Zepp. And from Class 4, Alexia Cornett. Once we pick our grand champion, we'll pick our reserve grand champion. The following exhibitors should be on standby: Elliot Weishauer, Eliza Hockheiser, Addie Wagner, and Estella Gover.
We get back out here to get you a champion pair, and for me, I think there's one that wins quite easy. I don't think it's very hard to find the two of these. I think they represent just the most show sheep parts and pieces. I think they're the freshest and handle genuinely the squarest in terms of their back shape. Young lady out of that third class will have your champion pin.
Your grand champion pair of market lands goes to Peyton Zepp That award sponsored by Magstone LLC, Beth and Jerry Stamball. Now we need back in the ring Addie Wagner from Class 3 to pick our reserve grand champion, market pair.
We bring that second place pair of them back out here. And like I said, sheep that I think definitely have quality, have some parts and pieces you can definitely like. But when we start thinking about which one most closely follows the type and kind of that pair we used to win, I think you got to go with that Class 4 for reserve. Young ladies right here will be your reserve pair.
Your reserve grand champion pair of market lambs goes to Alexia Cornett, and that award sponsored by Dave Penn and family. Okay, that's going to take us right in. We're going to start our market sheep. Our first class is 192A, double A. And it'll have one entry, Emma Arball, lamb weighing 83 pounds. Huh.
Well, we kick off the market side of things, and we've got a single entry here that I think just in terms of shape and muscularity, I definitely think that one has some in terms of its rack and loin edge. Still reads with plenty of density down through the base of its stifle. I'll be honest with you, I think you've done a better job today. We think back to last night or yesterday with showmanship. I think you've come out here and got that one pieced together nice tonight. I think you've done an awfully good job. How do we fix that one for me personally? I think for me, just getting that one spine to lay into him right, cleaning up his chest and his shoulder blade, and just from a balance standpoint. But like I said, just good American muscle. I think that one has plenty of shape up high and from behind. Awfully nice single entry to start the show off. Congratulations.
In Class 192 AA, first place goes to Emma Arball. Now we'll come in with Class 192A, lightweight market lamb. Two entries, Samuel Powell and Rhiannon Granger. Weights ranging from 92 to 98 pounds. The following should be on standby for Class 192B. Elliot Weishauer, two entries. Lauren Wareheim and Levi Smith.
Got a pair of them out here, and we're going to leave them like they stand. I think the young man's sheep's probably just a little fresher, a little more genuine in terms of his trimness and composition. And I think you step off the side of him, and that sheep's just neater to look at in terms of his sternum, how his neck sets at the top of his shoulder blade. Now, if we're going to fix him, I think we need to square him up out of his hip, make him a little more attractive in terms of his hind leg posture. But like I said, just shape, trimness, still giving a good enough look up front. That's where that sheep starts. The white sheep that comes out next is one that you have to love just in terms of rib cage, just softness of flank and how that thing gets out and motors. I think that one's skeleton is plenty flexible. For me, what gets you in trouble is I think that one's just a little soft to the touch. Probably doesn't handle near as firm and fresh. Need to clean that one up in her shoulder blade, make her a little leveler in terms of her hip. But I think an awfully good pair. Congratulations to those two kids.
Results of Class 192A, lightweight market lands. First place, Samuel Powell. Second place, Rhiannon Granger. In your program, it goes 1, 2. Class 192B should be entering the ring at this time. We should have 2 entries from Elliot Washauer, 1 from Lauren Wareheim, and 1 from Levi Smith. 192C, you should be coming ringside. Shane Smith, Bridget Barber, Elliot Washauer, Elizabeth Burns, and Lane Huff. You should be making your way ringside. Weights in this class range from 101 pounds to, 100 pounds to 104 pounds.
Another nice class, and I think these two rise to the forefront pretty quick. And I tell you, I think they have some trade-offs and just offer some different parts and pieces that make it a little more interesting in terms of fighting it out for the top spot. I think for me, though, if I stick to my gun and go with the one that's just more correct in their build, reads with more extension up front, is better in their top line balance and sounder and more flexible in terms of the rear leg assembly. The one that I like to win's the young lady up front. I think that sheep's just genuinely better in how its skeleton is put together. I think that one handles itself more correctly in motion, probably is just a little neater to look at from the side. The sheep that I want to love is the gentleman's in second, because that one's big-armed, really opened up and fresh shaped, and I like all those things. That one's really big in terms of its lower stifle. For me, I'm really big on skeleton, and when this sheep gets going, that's where things come apart. That sheep's not right in the angle of its shoulder blade, wants to get up in its spine, and we study how that one's hip and hind leg goes. I just don't think that one's near secure in how it sets those rear wheels down. Nice pair to go 1-2. We got the gentleman right here with the ewe-lamb, and that one's probably a little more comfortable just in terms of in motion. How that one balances from the side is more than appropriate. Biggest thing for me is when we get in behind them, we got to drop that girl down through the seat of her pants, make her bigger in terms of her body shape, and I think we start talking about tone and texture. That's the one that just reads awfully juvenile. And then the gentleman sheep down here is really good-bodied, and I love just the practicality of that sheep, the grow in that one and the extension. The only problem for me is when we step off the side, I just think that one becomes a little more ordinary in terms of its look, probably a little rounder in terms of its muscle shape. Awfully nice setup for, though. Congratulations to those kids.
Results of Class 192B, lightweight market lambs. First place, Lauren Wareheim. Second, Elliot Weishauer. Third, Elliot Weishauer. Fourth, Levi Smith. Down your program, it goes 2, 3, 1, and 4. Also to the exhibitors, you're getting 2 ribbons when you come in the ring. One ribbon is your place. The other ribbon is your rate of gain placing. So you're getting your placing for how you do in your market. Then you'll get a second ribbon of how you placed in your rate of gain. In the ring, we have Class 192C. Weights ranging from 108 to 110. We have 5 entries: Shane Smith, Bridget Barber, Elliot Weishauer, Elizabeth Burns, and Lane Huff. Class 192D, you should be ringside: Eliza Hockheiser and Peyton Rhodes.
We've got 5 of them out here, and I think 5 of them that, don't necessarily fit together just in terms of any of them being similar. But the thing that I guess I can find the most comfort in is using the young lady up front to win. I think for me personally, that's the only one that necessarily balances up right from the side. Probably is one of the sounder structured sheep that's the most comfortable coming and going. Now, from the ideal, is that one near stout enough up high and level out of its hip? Probably not. That's probably a big advantage for the gentleman sheep that's going to be in second, because I think that one genuinely opens up wider out of the back of its shoulder blade, probably reads a little leveler in terms of its hip and its hind leg. For me, though, it's right up front where I probably get a little more critical of this guy. He reads with a bit too much shoulder, a little deeper in terms of his sternum, and I don't see his neck hooking up quite as well. I think that's an interesting pair that has a lot of trade-off. Gentleman over here's got one, and I think just in terms of front end assembly, actually fixes the problems of the one we have in second. Problem with me is I just don't know if that ewe-lamb's got quite enough. We got to stouten that one up all the way through, pull her apart in her build, and give her a shot more through the base of her leg. I think if we do that, things would get a little more interesting in this class. Sheep that comes out next, I think outside looking in, that's the sheep that you want to call stout. That's the one that you want to call heavy, structured, and dense. Problem is when you get your hands on him, he reads too soft. He's probably not as genuine in just how his back shape is laid into him. Don't know if that one is near long enough in terms of his hip. And then the ewe-lamb that rounds out this class is one that's up-headed. I think one that is stout in terms of her foot and bone size. We study that one coming and going, though. We got to loosen her up in her spine, make her more secure down low, give that one a shot more going away. Awfully nice set, though. Congratulations to those 5 kids.
Results of Class 192C. First place, Bridget Barber. Second, Elliot Weishauer. Third, Shane Smith. Fourth, Elizabeth Burns. Fifth, Lane Huff. Down your program, it goes 3, 1, 2, 4, and 5. In the ring now, we have Class 192D. 2 entries, Elijah Hockheiser and Peyton Rhodes. At the end of this class, we'll need our class champions back to pick our lightweight champion. We'll need Samuel Powell, Lauren Wareheim, Bridget Barber, and our first place out of this class.
We get into our last class of lightweights, and I like the young lady sheep to go ahead and win. I think that one genuinely pieces together better from the side and is just more intriguing in terms of her silhouette. More importantly than that, we start studying rib cage, how those sheep open up from behind, and I just think there's more genuine shape and spread late in the ewe lamb that wins. Whether that comes out in second is a little trimmer. I think that sheep handles hard and fresh just in terms of his muscle shape. You get over the top of him, I think he runs a groove down his back and from behind. For me, though, it's right here where I put him second. I think that sheep reads just a little rounder in his build, a little deeper in his chest, and we start studying chest to flank relations. I don't know if that sheep necessarily uphill. Really nice way to round out the lightweights. Let's put our hands together and congratulate these 2 kids.
Results of Class 192D. First place, Elijah Hockheiser, who is also our champion rate of gain. She is also our champion rate of gain. And that award sponsored by R.F. Warner and Sons. Second place in the class went to Peyton Rhodes. At this time, we're going to pick our lightweight champion. So out of our first class of lightweights, we need Samuel Powell. Rhiannon Granger, you should be on standby. Lauren Wareheim out of Class 2. Elliot Weishauer, you should be on standby. Out of Class 3, Bridget Barber. Elliot Weishauer with your lamb from 192C should be on standby. And Eliza Hockheiser, you should be here. Out of Class 4, Peyton Rhodes, you should be on standby.
If you guys standing ringside, let's put our hands together for our lightweights that made it back out here. I think these kids have done an awfully good job to start the day, and when we start thinking about which one makes the most sense for a guy like me, just in terms of having some look, having some presence, still being fresh and balancing good enough from the side, I think there's one that probably wins this lightweight deal pretty quick. Then you've got an interesting decision to make from there. But the one that I'm going to use to be your champion lightweight is a young lady right here. Congratulations.
And your lightweight market lamb champion goes to Lauren Wareheim. We'll need Elliot Weishauer's lamb from Class 192B. The Lightweight Champion Award was sponsored by Kay Wagner, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine from North Carroll Vet Services. And we're now going to pick our reserve lightweight champion. Class 194A, medium weight market lambs. you need to be ringside. Elizabeth Burns, Malachi Riddle, Colleen Haynes, Macy Cagle, Madison Myers, Taryn Runshaw, and Shane Smith.
We get that second place back out here for our lightweight division, and I think the thing you've got to keep in mind with the four that are left is, I don't necessarily know if there's one that just kind of puts everything together, just in terms of parts and pieces from the side, how those things are built and their skeleton. So when you step back and realize that, I think the next smartest thing to do is find the one that's probably just the most out there in terms of their shape, their body cavity, their rib cage, just their heaviness of structure. I'm going to keep that pair together. Young man right here will have your reserve lightweight.
And your reserve lightweight champion goes to Elliot Weishauer. And that award sponsored by Sunshine Child Development Center, Rita Becker, in memory of Donald Graff. Okay, we'll continue our show here. We'll be getting into our medium weight class. These are lambs ranging from 115 to 119. We should have 7 entries. Elizabeth Burns, Malachi Riddle, Colleen Haynes, Macy Cagle, Madison Myers, Taryn Runshaw, and Shane Smith. Class 194B, you should be ringside. Brady Cromer, Chase Tyree, Bridget Barber, Annalyn Smith, Eli Barber, and Noah Guyman.
Got our first class of middleweights out here, and the young lady up front wins pretty easy. I'm not saying that sheep's perfect, but in this lineup in particular, that's one of the fresh ones that's genuine in their shape. More importantly, I think they put the most positives together from the side, just in terms of front end assembly, top line balance, and I think more importantly in motion, that one's the hip and hind leg upgrade of the one that's going to be second. Young lady right behind her will be 2, and I think the big difference right here between 2 and 3 is that sheep's actually handles firm, that sheep's actually trim and muscular, handles square in terms of his back. More importantly, when we start studying front skeletons, that sheep's thinner at the base of his neck, neater in his shoulder blade and sternum. Now, why does he not win? That sheep gets a little awkward in terms of his back leg, isn't as good in terms of his forerib, but I think one that goes second pretty quick. Probably the one outside looking in that most people would like is the one that's going to be third, because that's the thickie, really opened up, really stout, really opened up, really good bodied, and very just in terms of its ham feature, you can like a lot of things. For a guy like me, though, that one's too short in terms of his neck. He's too thick from that standpoint at the base of his neck. Get your hands on the top three. He's the most modest in terms of his tone and texture. Elam that comes out next is probably has the advantage just in terms of length up front. Chest to flank is more in line. I think that you balance is better from the side. Problem is, we step in behind her. There's just not enough from behind. Got to pull the partner pin set, make her stouter down through the base of her leg, open her up in her back shape. Young lady that comes out next, you've done a great job of getting that sheep's neck out of the top of his shoulder blade. I love that one's front end assembly. I think that's one that actually has some tone and texture up top. For me, it's from that one's flank back where I want to modify some things. That one's chest to flank runs the wrong way. The fact that that one's long vertebrae just kind of throws off her balance in terms of her hip and her hind leg. Sheep that comes out next is one that's good in his cage, and I think that Elam opens up with plenty of feature. I think that one reads wide. Get her hands on that one, though, and her touch is kind of like her build, just a little round and a little plain. Don't think that one's near as fresh. And then the one down there is one that's actually a composition upgrade. I like that sheep's length of hip, his extension up front, and his front skeleton. At the same time, I also think he's probably the most juvenile and green in terms of his body shape and texture up top. Study him from this side. He gets a little too round in his hip, a little too ordinary in the way he bends his back leg. Really nice way to start off the middleweights. Let's put our hands together for these kids on a job well done.
Results of Class 194A, medium weight market lambs. First place, Taryn Runshaw. Second, Madison Myers. Third, Macy Cagle. Fourth, Malachi Riddle. Fifth, Colleen Haynes. Sixth, Elizabeth Burns. And seventh, Shane Smith. Down your program, it goes 6, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1, and 7. In the ring at this time, we should have Class 194B. We're looking for Chase Tyree in this class. I think he's on his way. The weights in this class range from 120 to 121. So we'll have 6 entries in this class. Brady Cromer, Chase Tyree, Bridget Barber, Annalyn Smith, Eli Barber, and Noah Guyman. Class 194C, you should be ringside. Levi Smith, Virginia Burns, David Guyman, Grayson Cromer, Josie Bachtel, and Veronica Toth.
We get into our second class middleweights, and the gentleman sheep up front wins and does so pretty quick. We start thinking about just how these things proportion from the side. That's the only one in my mind that reads athletic in terms of his skeleton. I think he's the best in his hind leg posture. And even though his attitude is not near ideal, I still think that one reads as the highest quality, handles the freshest, and is the most genuine in his shape. Gentleman right here will be 2. And if you want to talk about one that's hard textured in terms of his shape up high, the density of his skeleton is actually quite impressive, because you get your hands on him and that sheep's hand meets it awfully hard and awfully fresh. I think when we get him stopped, that sheep gets his head up as well. The difference I see between those two, that's the flatter fore-rib sheep that reads a little more prominent in his breastbone. Don't think that one is near as pulled apart in his pin set. Don't read him as stout in terms of his bone work. Gentleman sheep that comes out next, I think a good-bodied one that's heavy structured, reads awfully round in terms of his rib cage. At the same time, get your hands on that guy. He wants to round off of his edges too much. Need to drop him down through the seat of his pants, give him a shot more booty, and roll on, because that one just needs to be a little burlier. One that comes out next is one that's probably the upgrade compositionally. I think that sheep's trimmer. I think that sheep's probably a little harder to the touch. I guess right here for me, that one just doesn't necessarily balance up as well. A little rounder in terms of its hip, a little more sternum. We start studying chest to flank. That one runs the wrong direction for me. And from behind, we got to give that one more hip and stifle. Ewe lamb that comes out next is one that's really extended. Like how our front end assembly is built, I think that one's got some reach and go. Same time, we get our hands on this sheep in this class. That one's probably the most peaked, right behind its shoulder blade. Probably reads a little too flat in its forerib from behind. I just don't know if that sheep's stout enough through the upper part of its hip. And then the ewe lamb that comes out next is one that, just in terms of parts and pieces and being functional, I think that sheep's got some good. Same time, I also think that's the one that probably plays in a little bit of dogfight out here. Doesn't have enough muscle and mass to go with it. I think if we could stouten that ewe lamb up, she probably goes up a couple of spaces. But we got to go with what we've got today. Just don't know if there's enough of her. Awfully good set. Congratulations to those kids.
Results of Class 194B. First place, Brady Cromer. Second, Noah Guyman. Third, Chase Tyree. Fourth, Anna Lynn Smith. Fifth, Bridget Barber. And sixth, Eli Barber. Down your program, it'll go 1, 3, 5, 4, 6, and 2. In the ring at this time, we should have 194C. 6 entries. Weights ranging from 122 to 123. We should have Levi Smith, Virginia Burns, David Guyman, Grayson Cromer, Josie Bachtel, and Veronica Toth. 194D, you should be ringside. Eli Barber, Kylie Medlin, Jacob Guyman, Alexia Cornett.
next class of middleweights, and I know that sheep doesn't want to set up, but I do think he is the highest quality. I think that's the one that has to win in this particular lineup because he combines the good of 2 and 3 from a standpoint of he matches the shape and muscularity of the one in second with the extra flexibility, correct top line and front end assembly we find in our third place sheep. I just think that one makes the most sense. From there, you've got a decision to make between 2 and 3. And for me, I personally like the young man's weather next. And it has everything to do with just hard shape and freshness. I think that's the better hided one that handles harder down the top side of his skeleton, drops more true muscle shape down through the seat of his pants, bolder and stouter in terms of his skeleton. Now, we talked about it yesterday in showmanship. Reason that guy doesn't win is he's too rocked forward and his shoulder blade gets up in his spine, and we start talking about build. I just don't think that one's near comfortable enough. Lamb fixes those problems from the standpoint she's more correct in the angle of her shoulder, better in her top line balance and square, and more useful in the design of her hip. I think that sheep's genuinely rounder in her forerib. At the same time, though, get your hands on them. She reached just a little too modest up top. Step in behind the sheep. She's not big enough in terms of her upper pin set. Need to stouten her up down through the base of her stifle. Elam that comes out next is one that I think is balanced as well from the side just in terms of parts and pieces. I think that one's got some body shape. I like the sweep of that one's flank and density in terms of her foot and bone. At the same time, that one's too broad in terms of its shoulder blade. And I think you get your hands on that one. She reads a bit too modest over her edge. Probably isn't as good and square in terms of her rack. Whether that comes out next is really big in terms of its forearm. I think that sheep is surprisingly hard touching because up high, he's got some shape right out of the back of his shoulder. For me, though, for it all to piece together, we got to clean up his build because his shoulder blade's too prominent. He reads rounder in the design of his hip. We get that sheep out and going. He's got way too much set to his hock. And then the one that's going to round out this class is up fronted. Top line is very good, and I should think that sheep is flexible. It's when you set your hands on them that one just doesn't have enough today. We've got to stouten that one up all the way through to move any higher. Awfully good set of sheep, though. If you guys, let's put our hands together, get these kids on doing a great job.
Results of Class 194C. First place, Grayson Crawler. Second, David Guyman. Third, Veronica Toth. 4, Levi Smith. 5, Virginia Burns. 6, Josie Bachtel. Down your program, it goes 4, 5, 2, 1, 6, and 3. In the ring at this time, we have Class 194D, Eli Barber, Kylie Medlin, Jacob Guyman, Alexia Cornett. Class 194E, you should be coming ringside. Jensen Wagner, Kylie Medlin, Peyton Rhodes, Hunter Hoff, Brantley Wagner, Jacob Guyman, Trinity Peck. Also to sheep exhibitors, minimum weight for the sale is 115. 115 is the minimum weight for the sale. You may start nominating your lamb once you have shown the lamb that you want to sell. You may come and see Alexis Masamore. She's to my right in the red shirt at the table, and nominate your lamb with her. Please know your ear tag, what class you were in, and if it was a whether or you. Again, 115 is the minimum. You may nominate after you have shown the lamb you want to sell.
you've got trade-off here, and depending on what you're thinking, sitting on the outside of the ring, I can understand liking either one of them because honestly, I think they kind of complement each other, and I think if we could put them together, we've got one that probably represents what we're looking for just in terms of trying to build one that's right. If I stick to my guns and use the best skeleton, best structured one, that's the most correct in terms of their hind leg posture and their front end assembly, I have to use the ewe lamb to win, and that's exactly why she does, because that sheep is genuinely that much more comfortable in the design of her build. You study the sheep in motion. That one's laid back in her shoulder blade. She is more attractive in her hind leg posture. And when you get your hands on her, she's not as hard touching as the wether that's going to be second, and that's where I fix her. But I still think that one opens up plenty bold and square out of the back of her shoulder blade, really drops down a deep and square loin edge. I just think that one represents more quality from the side. If you like this sheep in second, you do it because that guy is massive over the top side of his skeleton. If you want to talk about just hide quality, texture of muscle, and being stout from behind, that's the one you use. But for a guy like me that's going to preach build all night, get him out and get him going. Shoulder blades too rocked forward. He doesn't run uphill in terms of his chest and flank relation. More importantly than that, study the build of his hind leg. He's just got way too much bend for someone like me. Like the shape, like the muscularity, got to clean up his skeleton in motion. Whether that comes out next is one that's really extended high growth. I think that sheep opens up just in terms of his rack. For me, he fades over his loin edge, probably isn't as stout from behind. I don't know if that guy necessarily matches the same look and build quality we find in those top two. And then the sheep that's going to round out this class, really good in terms of his body shape, and I think one that's right in terms of his how he opens up throughout his skeleton. At the same time, we step off the side. I think that guy's just a little too round and plain in his build. Don't know if he necessarily balances up from the side. Awfully good set, though. Congratulations to those kids.
Okay, before I announce the results of that class, I've been asked to make an announcement on behalf of the sheep committee. By the ring over here where the sheep are coming in, it's getting way too congested. The sheep committee has asked if you are not helping a 4-H'er with their lamb, that you please clear the area. And please, if you would, find a space in the bleachers, or if you need to stand, you can come to my left down here by the fence or over behind the pig pens down there. But they say it's getting very congested and they can't get to the sheep. Kids are trying to find their way through and can't get up front. So we appreciate your cooperation in that. Just passing that on, if you'd please help us in that area. Okay, results. Class 194D. First place goes to Kylie Medlin. Second, Alexia Cornett. Third, Jacob Guyman. Fourth, Eli Barber. Down your program, it goes 4, 1, 3, and 2.
I'm going to talk a little bit about something. I got an award for outstanding person. If I can have your attention in the barn in this area. At the fair every year we try to give out a few awards, and tonight we're giving out an award to the Outstanding 4-H Hall of Fame for the Carroll County Fair for 2022. And the person tonight that's receiving this award has been around for a long, long time. Matter of fact, they exhibited here back in the old barns. They were on the judging team back many years ago. This person's really old. And she's, I told you it's a woman, got away from that. But anyway, she's been involved with the Carroll County 4-H program for many, many years. She's been a 4-H leader. Her children grew up and exhibited in 4-H. And she's been very, very active. So at this time, I would like to congratulate Mrs. Bobby Schmidt for being inducted into the Fair Hall of Fame. And if Bobby would make her way to the picture back area, drop with your family. I know your husband's here, and I think she got some more family here. We'd like to get a picture, and our Vice Chairman, Cindy Speaks, is going to get in the picture. So if anybody that's with Bobby's family or friends, please come up to the picture area. And we've already gave out one today in the Rabbit Barn. Mrs. Lures was inducted into the Hall of Fame as well. And we'll have some folks, again, maybe a little bit later this evening or tomorrow or the next day. So just tune in, and we'll get back to you.
Okay, in the ring at this time, we have Class 194E. We have 7 entries: Jensen Wagner, Collie Medlin, Peyton Rhodes, Hunter Hoff, Brantley Wagner, Jacob Guyman, and Trinity Peck. Class 194F, you should be ringside: Malachi Riddle, Aubrey Miller, David Guyman, Riley Dell, Jensen Wagner, Taryn Runshaw, and Hannah Haynes.
We leave these 3 sheep on this side of the ring, and I think they probably do just the most good for me today. Just in terms of how these things balance up the build of their skeleton and muscle, I think for me, the young ladies up front, it's the one that has to win and does so rather quickly. Now, where we got to modify that guy, he's a little round out of his hip, and I want to level him out there. But I think it actually helps him in this situation because you get the pair of them out and going. That's the one that's more useful and more attractive in their hind leg assembly, and I think reads genuinely better just in terms of its chest and how that one's neck and shoulder blade inlaid into them. Gentleman right here is going to be second, and I think that's kind of the meat and potatoes sheep that's really opened up and stout and dense in terms of his build. At the same time, for me to fall in love with that one and use him to win, I got to correct him in terms of his shoulder blade and sternum in motion. Even though he's leveler out of his hip, I think the fact that it's a little shorter consequently makes his hind leg come up that way as well. Got to lengthen him out in motion, shallow him up through the floor of his chest. I think if we do that, we've got one that could go ahead and win. The spot-topped weather's going to come out next, and I think just in terms of rib cage and having some feature down low, I like a lot of things about that sheep. I think he's good in his forerib, a sheep that's actually pretty wide and big up high. For me, though, we get in behind him, and I don't know if that matches. He wants to fade down through his stifle. More importantly than that, we put that guy in motion. He wants to get his spine up, push his chest forward ever so slightly. Just don't think from a balance standpoint in motion he necessarily matches the two that go ahead. Gentleman right here's got a weather that, you know, honestly, from the side I can find merit in because I think that sheep paints a pretty decent picture from the side. The biggest thing for me, Bud, is we get in behind him, and I don't know if there's enough today. I think if you had a little more time to open that guy up, get him just a little stouter, you probably work up to the top end of this class. I got to go with what's in front of me. He's just not big enough from behind or stout enough in terms of his back shape. Gentleman that comes out next, really good bodied sheep that's opened up in his cage. I like just how dense he is in his build. That sheep's actually square up high, big hipped and definitely has some product. At the same time, we study him in motion, and I talked about it yesterday. He's too straight in his shoulder blade. We've got to loosen him up and how he moves. We got to get him out and get him going a little more comfortably, balance him up from the side. Sheep that comes out next. I love that guy's grow. I love that guy's extension. I think he's very trim and muscular. Same time, I think from a balance standpoint, he reads with a little more shoulder blade. Probably isn't just as good from the side. And then the sheep that rounds out this class. I love that one's heaviness of structure. That one's trendy in its bone work, and I think good bodied. Same time, that one's probably the plainest to the touch, just a little too round in terms of its edges. Nice set, though. Congratulations to those kids.
Results of Class 194E. First place, Collie Medlin. Second, Jacob Guyman. Third, Jensen Wagner. Fourth, Brantley Wagner. Fifth, Hunter Huff. Sixth, Peyton Rhodes. And 7, Trinity Peck. Down your program, it goes 3, 1, 6, 5, 4, 2, and 7. In the ring at this time, we have our final class of medium weight market lambs. Their weights range from 128 to 129. We should have 7 entries. Malachi Riddle, Aubrey Miller, David Guyman, Riley Dell, Jensen Wagner, Taryn Runshaw, and Hannah Haynes. At the conclusion of this class, we'll pick our medium weight champion. Taryn Runshaw out of Class 1. Brady Cromer out of Class 2. Grayson Cromer out of Class 3. Collie Medlin out of Class 4. Collie Medlin out of Class 5. You should be ringside. Madison Myers, Class 1. Noah Guyman, Class 2. David Guyman, Class 3. Alexia Cornett, Class 4. And Jacob Guyman, Class 5. You should be on standby.
Last class of middleweights, and a young lady up front wins. And I think that sheep is just the most advanced in terms of his back shape and his muscle. Still does it with a good enough look from the side. I know that sheep's wanting to fight you, and getting him to balance out in terms of his top line is important, but I still think that's the highest quality sheep in class. I'm actually going to use the young man in second because I think both of those sheep actually handle pretty similarly. The differences that I see, that's the neater chested, better fronted one. That's better in his top line and more correct in his hind leg posture. Not stout enough to beat our class winner, but I think a really nice second. Sheep that comes out next is awfully trim and muscular. I think that one handles fresh up high. We start breaking down his build, though, and that's where he gets in trouble. He's too long in the length of his blade. Reads a little flatter in his forearm. that look right there is top line, hip, and hind leg just don't come together quite good enough in motion. Really nice one, winds up in third. Gentleman over here's got a ewe lamb that's packed full of muscle. I think that one's big backed and big hipped. Same time for me, I think that sheep's a little more ordinary in her look. Got to stouten her up in her bone work, make her chest to flank her in the right direction because she reads a bit too parallel from that standpoint. Ewe lamb that comes out next, really good bodied, heavier structured than the one we just discussed. Same time right here, not enough true meat animal shape up high. Got to stouten that one up from behind. Give that one a shot more look and presence up front. We got the ewe lamb that comes out next. Another one that just in terms of body shape and just how that one's flank ties into her, you can find some merit. Think that one's definitely good in terms of her leg wool and her shag. Same time, her muscles just a little too plain, little too round in her build. Don't know if she necessarily balance up as well. And then the ewe lamb that rounds out this class is a big one that's extended. I like her flexibility. We study that one on the brace, and she gets a little too washed out in her edges, reads a little longer in terms of her hip and vertebrae, kind of throws off her symmetry from the side. Awfully good way to round out the middleweights, though. Let's put our hands together and congratulate these kids on a job well done.
Results of Class 194F. First place, Taryn Runshaw. Second, Malachi Riddle. Third, Riley Dell. 4, David Guyman. 5, Jensen Wagner. 6, Aubrey Miller. 7, Hannah Haynes. Down your program, it'll go 2, 6, 4, 3, 5, 1, and 7. At this time, we'll pick our medium weight champion. Out of Class 1, we have Taryn Runshaw. Class 2, Brady Cromer. Class 3, Grayson Cromer. Class 4 and Class 5, Kylie Medlin. And Class 6, Taryn Runshaw.
We get out here for your champion middleweight selection, and I think the ones we bring back definitely offers some things that definitely represent quality, but at the same time, I think this set's off so very different in terms of how they're pieced together. I think you got to take some things into consideration with this group because I don't know if they necessarily get presented the highest from end to end. So you got to set that aside and just try to sort them up based off of quality. And I think when you do that, there's probably a sheep that makes the most sense today. I think that one's athletic. I think that one reads right in their build, even though we're struggling to get him presented. The one I like best out of the middleweights is going to be the young man out of Class 2.
Your medium weight champion goes to Brady Cromer. That award sponsored by Hanson Brothers, LLC, in memory of Debbie Hanson. Now, if we can get Noah Guyman's lamb out of Class 2, we'll pick our reserve champion, medium weight.
We get back out here to get your reserve, and I think for me, we just start back to which ones are just the hardest to build, represent the most parts and pieces that align with just build quality, balance, and structure. I think when you do that, the one that makes the second most sense is the young lady right in front of me with the ewe-lamb.
Your reserve champion medium weight goes to Kylie Medlin. And that award sponsored by Manchester Veterinary Services, LLC. And while we got the chance here before we start our light heavyweights, I'd like to introduce our judge here for this evening. If you weren't here yesterday, this young man's name is Taylor Lankford, and he comes from East Lansing, Michigan. And Taylor currently serves as the livestock judging team coach and an academic advisor for the Department of Animal Science at Michigan State University. Before Michigan State, Taylor completed degrees at Northeastern, Oklahoma A&M, Oklahoma State University, and Virginia Tech, where he competed on or coached several highly competitive teams. Taylor loves traveling around the country, judging stock shows, and is excited to be here to work with our exhibitors at the Carroll County 4-H and FFA Fair. Please welcome Taylor Lankford to Carroll County, Maryland. In the ring at this time is our first class of light heavyweight market lambs. Weights are 130. We have 6 entries: Elizabeth Coppersmith, Taryn Runshaw, Kennedy Smith, Lloyd Arball, Addie Wagner, Peyton Zepp. Class 196B, you should be ringside. Caroline Boone, Alexia Cornett, Kelsey Zepp, Morgan Ecker, Jacob Frock, Keegan McGrew.
I think we've got a nice pair of them on this side of the ring, and the differences that I see is there's one that's probably a little neater in terms of his sternum, and then I think the other one is just better from their back. The one that's rounder in their body shape, leveler out of their hip, and better in their hind leg posture is the one I'm going to start. That's the young lady up front. I think that sheep wins and just handles so much better in terms of his back shape. More importantly, like I said, he drops a rounder shape to his rib cage. Now, if we're going to fix him, we got to clean up his chest ever so slightly, but I still think that sheep balances with a look or proportion. Still think his skeleton reads right. Very flexible kind of sheep to win. Blue sheep's the really trim one that's really shapely up high. That one actually sets his neck a little higher at the base of his shoulder and is neater chested. I guess for me personally, we get that guy out and going. The fact that he's a little rounder in his hip, consequently his hind leg just gets a little too short stepping. I don't read that guy near good enough in his rib cage. We get him behind him. He's not stout enough either. This sheep in third is actually bigger hipped and bigger backed. Problem with that is he doesn't balance up as good from the side. That sheep's a little more ordinary in terms of his shoulder blade, a little rounder out of the top of his hip. Just read that guy a little more conventional in terms of his skeleton. Sheep that comes out next is really big racked, and I like how fresh that one is to the touch. Big hipped, heavy structured. We step off the side of that one, though. He's pushing way too much down in terms of his shoulder and chest. Reads too parallel in terms of his underline, a little thicker at the base of his neck. Elam that comes out next. Good ribbed, heavy structured, opened up. Just too plain up high and from the side. Don't think that one touches near good enough. And then the gentleman's got a white face out here that I think balances awfully well. I like her look. I like her symmetry in terms of her skeleton. Problem with her is she just runs out of power in this lineup. Probably handles a little too soft for me personally. Awfully good set, though. Let's congratulate these kids on a job well done.
Results of Class 196. Light heavyweight market lambs. First place, Peyton Zepp. Second, Taryn Runshaw. Third, Addie Wagner. Fourth, Elizabeth Coppersmith. 5, Kennedy Smith. 6, Lloyd Arball. Down your program, it goes 4, 2, 5, 6, 3, and 1. And while we have a chance, I'd also like to introduce our 2 young ladies that handed out awards for us yesterday at our showmanship and are helping us again here tonight during our market show. I'd first like to introduce our 2022 Lamb and Wool Ambassador, Miss Annabelle Miller. Annabelle raises Shropshire and Romney breeding sheep. She shows her breeding stock in local, state, and national level shows. She's a senior at Walkersville High School, where she plays the tuba in her school's marching and concert band. In her spare time, she enjoys painting and photography. Annabelle, raise your hand up there. There you go. Welcome Annabelle here to our show this evening. We appreciate her being out here for helping us out. I'd also like to introduce Miss Lydia Chamberlain, who is the Maryland Sheep and Wool Alternate Ambassador. Lydia is 16 years old and lives on a farm of over 500 animals. She loves being with the animals and hopes to continue to work with them in the future. Lydia, put your hand up there. Please welcome Lydia to our show this evening and their help in passing out our awards. Thank you. In the ring now, we have 196B. We have Caroline Boone, Alexia Cornett, Kelsey Zepp, Morgan Ecker, Jacob Frock, and Keegan McGrew. 196C, you should be ringside. Addie Wagner, Madeline Kemp, Eliza Hockheiser, Delaney Wareheim, Lloyd Arball, Estella Gover, Audrey Robertson.
I think probably the toughest decision we've had tonight aligns right here because I think both of these sheep are definitely good. I think they both represent probably as much quality as we've seen throughout the duration of this show. I think you have to break them down to kind of understand where you want to lay your priorities. You know, the weather up front is one that I love his tone and texture. I think that guy is very fresh. I think his rack and his loin edge are definitely in him. I think that guy still reads plenty big out of the base of his stifle. I think if we could give him a little more outer hip shape, that would change his look quite a bit. And I think that guy's maybe just a little straight in his shoulder blade. But still, when we get that guy propped up, he balances well. I think he's the rounder ribbed one that still opens up plenty big. And then this ewe-lamb is one that I think just in terms of neck attachment and angle of shoulder is awfully good. You know, she reads with a little more point to her shoulder. We study chest to flank, and I don't know if it necessarily runs the right direction, but that's a heavy structured, big hipped one that's probably got a little more outer turn to her stifle. Don't read her near as good in her full rib. Those are the differences that I see. Think it's an awfully close pair, but I think the one that I like to win today is going to be the young lady up front. Think that sheep represents a lot of good. Love his hamp feature. Like I said, make the outer part of his stifle a little bigger, free him up in his shoulder blade, and I think that one wins for fun. Young lady, you're in any other class and you win. And I hope you know that, and I like that sheep quite a bit. We got to face the facts, though. That one's not as good in her full rib. We get them in motion, and she wants to get her spine up ever so slightly. So from a top-line balance standpoint, she's not as nice as that weather that wins. But I tell you, that's an awfully, awfully good one that winds up in 2. From there, we go over here. We've got a sheep that I think is just packed full of muscle. I love his back shape. The turn and just depth of his stifle is awfully good. Young lady absolutely shows the wheels off of him. For me, though, it has everything to do with when we get him in motion. I don't think that sheep's near as athletic in terms of his build compared to the two that go ahead. And I say that consequently because he is more athletic than the one that's going to be 4th. That's exactly why he winds up in 3rd. You know, the ewe that comes out next, big hipped, beautiful bodied, really stout and dense in terms of her foot and her bone work. For me, though, I read that sheep a little more prominent in her shoulder blade and sternum. I think you get your hands on the top 4. She's probably the most modest in how her back sets in her and in motion. She's a little too flat-footed from behind, gets a little too much set to her hind leg. You that comes out next is another one that I like just in terms of density, in terms of bone work, body shape, and spread of skeleton. At the same time, I say that while knowing she's still not stout enough to rival the sheep that are ahead of her. I think that one reads a little plainer in terms of her front end assembly. And then the sheep that's going to round out this class is one that still reads plenty wide up front, open out of the back of her shoulder and big hips. I just think this sheep comes in a little too plain of a package for me. Doesn't hook up near as good in terms of her front end assembly. Probably is the roundest hip sheep in class. Awfully nice set, though. Really nice pair of them up top. Congratulations to those kids.
Results of Class 196B. First place, Kelsey Zepp. Second, Caroline Boone. Third, Alexia Cornett. 4, Jacob Frock. 5, Keegan McGrew. 6, Morgan Ecker. Down your program, it goes 2, 3, 1, 6, 4, and 5. In the ring at this time, we have Class 196C, weights ranging from 136 to 137, with 7 entries: Addie Wagner, Madeline Kemp, Eliza Hochheiser, Delaney Wareheim, Lloyd Arbaugh, Estella Gover, Audrey Robertson. 196D, you should be ringside. Patrick Barber, Audrey Robertson, Elliot Weishauer, Mason Frock, Mitchell Smith. Ann Costa. Ann Costa. If you are in the building, would you please report up here to the sheep committee? Ann Costa. Thank you.
Doesn't take long to find this one to win. Just represents the most parts and pieces that are in line with just good show sheep, heavy structured, round bodied. Still think that one balances appropriately enough from the side. You know, like I said earlier, he's not perfect in terms of his shoulder blade, and we need to square him up out of his dock, but I still think that sheep wins this class rather routinely. I know we have a hard time getting the 1 and 2 shown, but I think you start studying just parts and pieces, and I think that's the next best one, because we start studying muscle and how they combine it with their skeleton, and I think that weather props up with the most look and balance of the ones that remain. I think he does the best job of getting his spine laid into him, being athletic in terms of his hip and hind leg. Not near stout enough compared to our class winner. Need to clean him up in his chest ever so slightly, but an awfully good one that winds up in 2. Lamb right here balances very nicely from the side, like her top line, like her front end assembly and hind leg posture. Same time, there's just not enough of her. Got to pull her apart, stouten her up at the ground, and give that one more genuine shape and spread to go any higher. Weather right here, the exact opposite. That's the stout one that's pulled apart, that from a build standpoint is just too forward in his shoulder blade, gets up in his spine, round out of his hip, and a bit too ordinary in his hind leg. Young lady that comes out next has got a sheep that I think just in terms of length of skeleton, length of hip, and how our front ends tie, I think you can find merit in that one. He just needs a little more coming and going. That ewe lamb isn't near stout enough. Don't know if she's comfortable enough just in terms of her hind leg posture. Weather that comes out next, I think, is one that's really extended up front, really good in terms of his feet and legs, just in terms of heaviness of structure, reach and go. We get our hands on that one, and he's just a little too green up high at these bigger weights. We just need a little more muscle off either end of his skeleton. And then the sheep that comes out next is awfully good bodied. I like the fact that that sheep's got some flexibility at the same time. That one's probably the softest in this class, just a little round off either end of its build. Really nice class, though. Let's congratulate those kids on a job well done.
Results of Class 196C. First place is Stella Gover. Second, Eliza Hockheiser. 3, Addie Wagner. 4, Audrey Robertson. 5, Delaney Wareheim. 6, Lloyd Arbaugh. 7, Madeline Kemp. Down your program, it goes 3, 7, 2, 5, 6, 1, and 4. Coming in the ring next is Class 196D. Weights ranging 138 to 140. We should have 5 entries. Patrick Barber, Audrey Robertson, Elliot Weishauer, Mason Frock, and Mitchell Smith. 196E, you should be ringside. Elizabeth Coppersmith, Owen Boone, Jacob Braun, Samuel Powell, and Bryce Zepp. Also a reminder to all exhibitors, if you've won any type of award yesterday or today, make sure that you get your thank you notes out to the sponsor of your award. That is an important thing that you should be doing, to thank them, to allow you to win those awards and be presented with the gift that they sponsor. So make sure, if you're unsure of who it is, see anyone on the sheep committee and they can help you out.
Once again, we get out here, and I think the pair of them up top go there pretty quickly. I think this sheep's just a little more comfortable in his skeleton. The fact that he's more relaxed in the angle of his shoulder and top line allows that sheep to be more athletic in motion. He's not as good fronted as that one that goes second, but I still think that guy reads with plenty of just genuine shape out of the back of his shoulder. He's better bodied, bigger hipped. I love his hamp feature down low. That's the one that we're going to start. If this sheep moved any better, he'd win, because that one's up-headed. I think that one's really good in his top line when we get him standing still, and one that handles trim and fresh just in terms of how his muscles laid into him. Same time, we talked about him in motion. He's too straight in the angle of his shoulder. Get him going. His spine wants to go up. Hind leg gets tucked up underneath him. Just don't know if that one's near comfortable enough. Sheep that comes out in third is really good bodied and opened up. I think its look and muscle shape kind of match each other, because to me it's just a little plain. Don't think that one hooks up right at the top of his shoulder, pushing a little extra chest. Study his shape, and he's just a little rounder in terms of his muscle. Whether that comes out next, really extended, probably the trimmer one of those two. At the same time, I think that one is a bit flatter in terms of his rib cage, probably a little narrower from behind. Just don't think that sheep balances up quite as well. And then the ewe that comes out next is good bodied and extended. I like her growth and extension. Just think she's a little round off both ends of her skeleton. Probably not stout enough coming and going for someone like me. Awfully good set though. Congratulations to those kids.
Results of Class 196D. First place, Mason Frock. Second, Audrey Robertson. Third, Elliot Weishauer. Fourth, Mitchell Smith. 5, Patrick Barber. Down your program, it goes 5, 2, 3, 1, and 4. In the ring at this time, we should have 196E. Should be 5 entries. We should have Elizabeth Coppersmith, Owen Boone, Jacob Braun, Samuel Powell, and Bryce Zepp. Reminder to exhibitors, minimum weight for the sale is 115, 115. Once you have shown your lamb that you would like to nominate, you may see Miss Alexis Masamore to my right at the table in the red shirt. Make sure you have ear tag, class that you were in, and if you have a whether or a you. See her at the table to get your lamb nominated.
Really nice one to win this class, and just does it from a standpoint of that's the stout, fresh one that balances up good enough from this side. I think he represents probably the most show sheep proportions and build. Now in motion, need to free him up a little bit in his shoulder blade, but I still think that one wins this class. Kind of pistol whips it from that standpoint. Awfully good one to win. Reason the young lady's going to be second is because of the sheep that remain. That's the next one that handles fresh, firm, and good in terms of her muscle shape. I think that one balances probably as good as any of them that remain from the side. Just represents the most look and balance and symmetry in terms of her skeletal makeup. Sheep that comes out next. This ewe lamb's really opened up and heavy structured, really good in her forerib. At the same time, though, we step off the side. I read a little too much chest and shoulder in that ewe. She wants to get her top line up, hind leg up underneath her, and when we get our hands on her, she's just a little soft right over her edges, probably not as fresh as that pair that go 1-2. Sheep that comes out next, good-bodied, really flexible, really kind of a bold-bodied one that's got some just some width. At the same time, I don't know if that width necessarily matches in terms of her shape. She's just a little plainer in terms of her top, reads a little flatter in terms of her leg shape. Need to stouten her up through the base of her stifle, balance her a little better from this side. And then the sheep that's going to round out the class is probably an upgrade up front. I think that sheep ties her neck higher at the point of her shoulder, reads long and extended in terms of her build. Need to shorten her in terms of her vertebrae. And in a class like this, she just runs out of power for me. Doesn't have enough punch from behind to really rival those sheep up top.
Results of Class 196E. First place, Bryce Zepp. Second, Elizabeth Coppersmith. Third, Jacob Braun. Fourth, Samuel Powell. And fifth, Owen Boone. Down your program, it'll go 2, 5, 3, 4, and 1. Next up is our final class of light heavyweight market lambs, Class 196F. We should have 5 entries: Lexi Zepp, Caroline Boone, Benjamin Powell, Zeke Frock, and Estella Gover. At the conclusion of this class, we'll pick our light heavyweight champion. Peyton Zepp out of Class 1, Kelsey Zepp out of Class 2, Estella Gover out of Class 3, Mason Frock out of Class 4, Bryce Zepp out of Class 5. You should be ringside.
I guess I don't necessarily care if that sheep gets shown. He's the highest quality. That's the one that balances the best from the side. Still opened up in his build. Good in terms of his ham feature. Still reads in his rib cage. Just hits me with the most show sheep proportions. Ewe-lamb's going to be second and does so from the standpoint she's bigger in terms of her lower stifle. She's better bodied than the one that's in third. More importantly than that, she's the more comfortable option that attaches her a neck higher at the point of her shoulder. Now, what's her problem? That girl's got a little too much on her and handles a little soft. I want to clean her up right out of the base of her dock, but I still think that's a ewe that represents a ton of quality. This sheep right here is trimmer. I think that sheep still handles with plenty of muscularity. At the same time, though, we study that guy coming and going. He's a little too forward in his shoulder blade, a little off in his neck attachment, and in motion, he gets his spine up, gets his hind leg up underneath him, just isn't as comfortable in the way he gets out and moves. One that comes out next is a sheep that's really extended up front, good in his top line and sound structured. Same time, he reads a little more conventional in terms of his front end assembly, probably just a little flatter down through the base of his leg, a little frailer in terms of his bone work. And then this sheep right here is one that's actually big hipped, really opened up down the top of his skeleton. I just think he reads a little plain to me from the side, little coarser, little rounder, but an awfully nice one to round out this class. Congratulations to those kids.
Results of Class 196F. First place, Zeke Frock. Second, Caroline Boone. Third, Estella Gover. Fourth, Lexi Zepp. Fifth, Benjamin Powell. Down your program, it goes 4, 2, 5, 1, and 3. Now we're going to pick our light heavyweight champion. Out of Class 1, I need Peyton Zepp. Class 2, Kelsey Zepp. Class 3, Estella Gover. Class 4, Mason Frock. Class 5, Bryce Zepp. Class 6, Zeke Frock. The following should be on standby. Out of Class 1, Taryn Runshaw. Class 2, Caroline Boone. Class 3, Eliza Hockheiser. Class 4, Audrey Robertson. Class 5, Elizabeth Coppersmith. And Class 6, Caroline Boone.
If you guys will, let's put our hands together for our light heavy exhibitors that made it back out here for their division drive. You know, I definitely think quality probably stepped up in these light heavies, and I think the 6 that we've got back here and even some that'll come in here in just a second are awfully good sheep. You know, for me, I try to find the ones that I think are just the most unique from the side, still handle with the right kind of shape, and do it right in motion. And I'm not going to say that there's one out here that's perfect in motion. So I guess for me personally, we have to go back to look and build and how these things are presented from the side. I guess when we do that, there's one that I like quite a bit, just in terms of his length of blade, his chest, how his neck sets into him, and I still think his hip and hind leg posture is the best. I'll set the mic down, show you your champion light heavy. We'll bring that second back in and get you a reserve. One more time, let's show these kids some love. They've done an awesome job.
Your light heavyweight champion is Kelsey Zepp. That award sponsored by Jones Fencing, LLC. And now we'll bring in Caroline Boone out of Class 2, and we'll pick our reserve champion, light heavyweight. Your reserve champion, light heavyweight, goes to Caroline Boone. That award sponsored by David and Michelle Parrish. Now coming in the ring is our first class of heavyweight market lambs, Class 198A, Avery Becker, Haley Becker, Benjamin Powell, Keegan McGrew, Abigail Kane, and Peyton Zepp. Class 198B, you should be ringside. Noah Guyman, Kelsey Zepp, Alexia Cornett.
Young lady, liked him yesterday, still like him today. Good looking, fresh, muscular, paper thin hided, easily the best structured sheep in class. That one's the hardest to make. If this sheep's hind leg was better, we could have a closer discussion, but I still don't think there's enough of that one right now. I think that sheep actually is beautiful just in terms of his hamp feature. I love how good he is in terms of his top line, his length of hip. When we compare him to that sheep that wins, though, he's not good enough in his body shape. He reads with a little more chest, and probably the thing that irks me the most, he gets a little funky off of his hind legs, is a little bow-legged. I think that's an awfully good pair to start out the heavyweights. Elam that comes out next is one that I think is really good-bodied, really opened up and stout. For me, though, that's a sheep that doesn't match the same bells and whistles as what we find in the top two. That one's just a little plainer from the side, a little rounder in her build, probably not as fresh and muscular. Elam that comes out next is a big-backed, opened-up one that's just a little too soft. We get that one in motion. She gets her spine up, kind of comes apart on us in terms of her build. Elam that's next is really trim, really fresh to the touch. I think we step off the side, though, and that's one that's just a little too plain in terms of her shoulder and front end assembly. I think that's a ewe that rounds out of her hip. Just got to stouten her up down low. And then the weather that's going to round out this class, I love his length. I love his grow. I don't know if there's enough muscle in that one quite yet. Probably just a little plainer from this side, but definitely a good set top to bottom. Let's show these kids some love and put our hands together on a job well done.
Results of Class 198A. Heavyweight market lambs, first place, Peyton Zepp. Second, Keegan McGrew. Third, Haley Becker. Fourth, Avery Becker. 5, Benjamin Powell. 6, Abigail Kane. Down your program, it goes 4, 3, 5, 2, 6, and 1. We now have Class 198B in the ring. Noah Guyman, Kelsey Zepp, Alexia Cornett. 198C, you should be ringside. Jonathan Smith, Patrick Barber, Kenley Cagle, Madison Myers, Riley Dell.
We get our next class out, and that young lady up front wins and does so pretty quick. Stouty, extra massive, good enough in his look from the side. I'm not going to say he's perfect. It's to be expected when you get at a little bit of a higher weight. His maturity is starting to show just a little bit, a little thicker at the base of his neck, maybe not near as shallow as what he once was. I still think that one dominates this class in a very big way. Congratulations to that young lady. Young lady right here is going to be 2, and this is probably the best look of that sheep because he pulls himself together, balances with some proportions. I think it represents some look and feature. Your problem is you're stuck in class with one that's just twice as stout, twice as massive, and honestly probably is just a little more comfortable in how he utilizes his hip and hind leg. And then the wether that's going to come out next is one that's very muscular. I think that sheep's actually good in terms of his rack shape, as you can tell right here. Our loin edge is not blending in right now, and I think we study him from this side. He just reads a little rounder in his shoulder blade and hip. Don't know if that guy's near comfortable enough in motion. If we could free him up, I think it would change his dynamic quite a bit. Awfully nice trio, though. Let's put our hands together for these kids on a job well done.
Results of Class 198B. First place, Kelsey Zepp. Second, Alexia Cornett. Third, Noah Guyman. Down your program, it goes 3, 1, 2. Class 198C, our final class of heavyweight market lambs, now enters the ring. We should have 5 entries. Jonathan Smith, Patrick Barber, Kenley Cagle, Madison Myers, and Riley Dell. At the conclusion of this class, we'll pick our heavyweight champion and reserve heavyweight champion. I need Peyton Zepp out of Class 1, Kelsey Zepp out of Class 2. You should be ringside.
Last class of the day, and I think the sheep that we've got winning just does it because that's the only one that probably represents some look and some balance from this side. I think that sheep's good in motion. I'm not going to sit here and call him perfect. He's got a little shoulder blade. He's a little round in his hip, but I still think he's proportional in terms of his look. I think that sheep handles as fresh as any of them out here. Represents the most genuine body shape. Really nice place to start. The difference between the two sheep in 2 and 3 is that young lady's ewe lamb is just fresher, harder touching, handles with more honest shape and dimension. That's a big sheep that's extended, probably doesn't balance up as good as our class winner, and probably isn't just as stout in her bone work. Whether that comes out next, really good rib. That one's as round in his body shape as any. I think that one's heavier structured and probably a little denser at the ground. Same time, that sheep fades over his edges, reads too plain and modest down through the base of his stifle. Just got to shape that one up and give him more true shape. Ewe that comes out next is one that's extended. I like that one's length up front. I think that one's got some reach and flexibility. Wants to fade out of the top part of her hip. Consequently, she's a little flatter down low, a little plainer in the way that her muscles laid into her. And then the ewe lamb that rounds out this class. Really good up front in terms of her neck attachment. I think she reads with some extension off either end of her build. For me, though, that's a sheep that just runs out of power in this set. Isn't quite stout enough off both ends of her build. Awfully good set, though, to round out the day. Congratulations to those kids.
Results of Class 198C. First place, Raleigh Dell. Second, Madison Myers. Third, Kenley Cagle. Fourth, Jonathan Smith. Fifth, Patrick Barber. Down your program, it goes 4, 5, 3, 2, and 1. Now in the ring, we're going to pick our heavyweight champion. Out of Class 1, I need Peyton Zepp. Class 2, Kelsey Zepp. Class 3, Raleigh Dell. On standby, out of Class 1, I need Keegan McGrew. Class 2, Alexia Cornett. And Class 3, Madison Myers.
Really a nice set of heavyweights that we get back out here, and I think there's definitely quality, and for me personally, there's probably a pair of them that make sense. I think they bring forth the most good just in terms of fresh shape, height, quality, and muscularity. The differences that I see between that pair is there's one that's just a little more or a little younger and a little more athletic in his build, and then there's one that's definitely stouter. I'll set the mic down, show you your champion heavy, and then we'll bring the second back in and get you a reserve. One more time, let's show these kids some love. They've done an awesome job all day. Congratulations once again.
Your heavyweight champion goes to Peyton Zepp. That award sponsored by Taylorsville Veterinary Clinic, Dr. Bill Graves. And now we'll bring Keegan McGrew, the second place out of that class, and we'll pick our reserve heavyweight champion. And your reserve heavyweight champion goes to Kelsey Zepp. That award sponsored by DLG Farms, Lucas, Deanna, Noah, David, Jacob, and Cora Guyman. Now we're going to pick our grand champion market lamb. From the medium weight division, I need Bradley Cromer, and I need Kylie Medlin on standby. Okay, I need out of the medium weight to the ring. I need Bradley Cromer, our medium weight champion, and Collie Medlin, our reserve medium weight champion. In the light heavyweight division, I need Kelsey Zepp to the ring, and I need Caroline Boone to the ring. And in the heavyweight division, I need Peyton Zepp and Kelsey Zepp to the ring. We're going to pick our grand champion market lamb and our reserve grand champion market lamb. After this, we'll do our club groups. So if you're interested in getting in with the club groups, we need you to get ready and be ringside. So once this is complete, we can go ahead and bring them in. And then that will conclude tonight's show.
Well, if you guys will, let's put our hands together for these kids that made it back out here for the grand drive. I tell you, the top end of these sheep have been awfully good, and I think you can justify a lot of different things, but I try to stick with the sheep that fit me personally and the ones that I think are just the neatest to look at from the side, and I think the ones that we've got standing on this side and even the seconds probably did the best job of that within their respected weight divisions. I think they bring forth the most parts and pieces that are the hardest to create and just represent the highest quality livestock. You know, we get back out here and start thinking about getting you a champion, and to me, it's a two-horse race. I think there's a pair of them that read athletic. I think they're the most unique in terms of their build. For me personally, I think there's one that's just a little neater in terms of their hind leg assembly, probably just a little better in the angle of their shoulder. But like I said, two-horse race. I'll set the mic down, get you a champion. Once again, let's put our hands together. Sheep Show's been awfully good.
And your 2022 Grand Champion Market Lamb goes to Peyton Zepp. That award is sponsored by Jerry W. Frock family in memory of Mr. and Mrs. John W. Frock. And your 2022 Reserve Grand Champion Market Lamb goes to Kelsey Zepp. And that award sponsored by John and Ramona Rawlings and family in memory of Nevin Tasto and Brenda Barber. So now we have one last thing to do, and that's our club groups. That's, I believe, 4. Am I correct, Debbie? 4 lambs that are in the same club. They come in together, and they look for uniformity in those 4 lambs. If you're coming in to be a part of that judging, please come to the ring at this time. A reminder, if you want to nominate your lamb, again, the minimum weight is 115. Please know your ear tag number, if it's a whether or a ewe. And see Alexis Masomer here in the red shirt to my right, and she'll be here till 8:50, 20 minutes. She'll be here for 20 minutes. I stand corrected. Alexis will be here for 30 minutes, which is 9 o'clock. She'll be here till 9 o'clock, and then we're closing nominations.
We've got our last class of the day, and I think an appropriate way to end is with these counties out here and their 4-H clubs and FFA clubs, and just getting out here and getting groups together. And, you know, I think it kind of brings just a little bit of decision to make, because you've got to go with the ones that probably fit together the best, probably do the most positive things just in terms of uniformity, conformation, and their skeletons. I think when we do that, there's a group that I like to win. We're going to use this group down here to be your champion group. Awfully nice set. From there, I think it gets kind of interesting, but the second best group in my mind is the young group right here. I think that group of sheep is just a little more uniform in terms of size. How those things are pieced together, I think they balance awfully well just in terms of the four of them together. From there, we'll go right here with third. I think a set of sheep that are very trim, very muscular, probably needed just a little longer to get those sheep dialed in. They still read young and juvenile. And then this set down here are some that I think just in terms of consistency, I don't know if the four of them necessarily match up correctly. I think they're four good sheep in their own right. I just don't know as a group if they come together, match the symmetry and balance we find in the rest. Nice way to end the sheep show. If you guys will, let's congratulate all these kids that came through the ring today.
Results from our club groups here this evening. First place, Limeboro 4-H Club. Second place, Limeboro 4-H Club. Third place, Sam's Creek 4-H Club. And fourth place, Sam's Creek 4-H Club. Again, thank you to everyone for coming out. Thank you again, Taylor, for a great job the last 2 days with our sheep show. We appreciate you coming to Carroll County. We'll be back here tomorrow evening. We'll start our swine show at 6 o'clock. If you want an award here this evening, make sure you get over here by the big banner to get your picture taken. Everyone should be over there. I believe Zach's over there, and Taylor will be over there. So get your picture taken. What? Nico, what time? What time? Showmanship and market. Okay. Meat Goat show starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. with showmanship and market. So if you don't have anything going on tomorrow morning, grab some breakfast. Start out with the goat show, meat goat show, and then stay for the swan show.